Well, I want to welcome everyone for joining us today, students, faculty, staff, and the families who came quite a distance to join us for this reading. This is the Perceptions, Arts, and Literary Journal reading, and I want to start by introducing Todd Chalmers and also thank him for his wonderful leadership this year. And this is the second year that he has served as the managing editor. And you've done a fabulous job, Todd. It's not easy. Sometimes it can be kind of like wrangling cats when you're dealing with creative people, but he's very focused, very organized, and it was a joy to work with him. And he will mention all the other staff members on the journal as well as the writers. So thank you all for joining us today, and enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for coming to this year's reading of 2014 Perceptions, Art, and Literary Journal. Thank you all for showing up. It's been quite a year. I would like to first of all thank my editors this year for all their hard work, starting with our fiction and nonfiction editor, Samantha Lemmerman, our poetry editor, Justin Craigmile, art editor, Jessica Ann Bruss, our two copy editors, Maddie Robinson and Ben Fick, our design editor, Laura Cook. We have a huge staff this year, and all our readers and art viewers, and thank you so much for helping out. I'm just going to get started right off the bat with our reading this year. We have quite a few selections of poetry and fiction for all of us to enjoy. So let's get this kicked off with Samantha Lemmerman. If you can come on up here and start reading your poetry for us, please.
Hello, thank you all for coming. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you, Todd, and everybody for letting me be the nonfiction and fiction editor. It's been a wonderful experience, and also as the English Club president this year, it's been a great year for the English department as a whole. And as I graduate, I trust that everybody who will be in charge next year will do wonderfully as well. The first story I'll be reading, or prose piece, is called Turkey on a Thursday Night, and it's about my friends and I, who we would hang out at their house. It's 805 Main Street, in case you're wondering. It's right across from Couture's, so it's right on 59 where all of the turkey trucks go past. And when we would sit on their porch, all we would see was just turkey trucks just going by all the time. So this is Turkey on a Thursday Night. Duct tape tears from tightly wound roll. Road trip stories compare wicked cold Minnesota to hell hot Texas. Hands rake hair, too much work, not enough play. A week until finals. The giant twig of a man slaps silver tape against the side of a cream-colored fridge covered in Sharpie graffiti. The starting point at the top, next to the honey-colored liquid, add more duct tape. Stick, 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 in case you get sick, here's the road. Stretch the duct tape across bloated linoleum, a path to the bathroom with the basics. A white girl wasted anthem in the living room, duct tape roads abandoned. Shake your ass on the cold wooden floor, drink warm Texas spirits. Get shwasted from oversized shot glasses, dance with friends. Semis rumble down the road, their headlights intrusive. Scream Nicki Minaj lyrics. Bitch talking to the queen when she looking like a lab rat. Turn off the living room lights, presto. A disco ball of headlights, shots, double shots. A sweet gift from Nick's mom, all the way from Texas. Dance to 90s alternative punk. Everything is bigger and blazed on shot glasses. Double shots choke down, wild whiskey burns. Turkeys shot, tame ones, double shot. White turkeys roll by on semi-trailers, another shot. White feathers poke through wire entrapments. And the second piece I'll be reading is a poem. And as a creative writing major, you get 500 sheets of paper to print on for the entire semester. And if you use these 500 sheets of paper, you have to usually end up buying more paper. And I have a printer in my own room, and I have run out of my 500 sheets of paper and gone through many reams of paper as well. So, this is a poem to the persons at SMSU who decided on a capped print quota. Pages 1 to 150 are divided into fiction drafts, an unwelcome love. 151 to 345 go to papers, academic or articles for the Mustang spur. 346 to 459 shoot by on stapled joints to professors who scribble and mark the wrong and right on them. 460 to 678 are ripped away pages that are saved until finals. But that's 5 months away. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I would like to introduce next Martin Sulfur. He'll be reading a couple selections of poetry.
Hey, I'm from around here, so I usually write farm stuff. So if you know what picking rock's all about, I know what picking rock's about. If you don't, then you're probably from the cities, but that's okay. My first piece is called Among the Clumps. Sunlight sears through the great metal cab, turning black surfaces into places of pain. The tractor pulls the red ripping machine, gouging through dirt, crushing the clumps. Hours pass by, little eyes grow heavy, no room to rest among knobs and gears. The driver decides to take a break. They step out into a cooling breeze. The little one lies down among clumps of dirt, quickly falling asleep. Covering him, the driver returns to work. That's based off real life experience, but no, my parents aren't evil or mean or anything. I was just tired. The second one, out at our farm, my grandma had a garden, and this just kind of inspired me to write this. It's called Stalking Snapdragons. Bleh. Crouching among the ferns, the birds of paradise aren't disturbed. Their icy blues and amber oranges are close enough to touch. He stalks crimson snapdragons, thriving across the black terrain. On that ground the king's spear rots, wrapped in Queen Anne's lace. The dragons surround a sea of amethyst ambrosia, among clusters of bleeding hearts and baby's breath. Yellow flowers follow their sun, setting on the horizon. Far off a brass bell rings, calling the boy home. Thanks.
Thank you, Martin. All right, next up we have Kevin Hireman. He will have a selection of fiction for us.
Hello, thank you all for coming. This story I wrote last semester, and it's one of the better things I've written, and I'm really enjoying it. I hope you do too. Bloodstains. I trim my dark brown beard, checking to make sure it's even on both sides. Cut there, shape here, pulling out a ruler from my bathroom cabinet, measuring the length of my beard and the width of my sideburns, half-inch long and an inch wide, perfect. I place the trimmer and ruler back in their respective spots before pulling out a disinfecting cloth. Wiping down the sink, getting every last hair before throwing it out. With the sink spotless, I leave the bathroom and enter the bedroom, where the Tuesday suit lays on my bed. I change, look at myself in the mirror to check for any complications. The dark blue suit with the black diamond tie matches perfectly with the gray dress shirt. Staring at my reflection in front of me, I breathe slowly. Today is the day that I'm going to die. I repeat it out loud several times, making my resolve that more definite. Turning away from the mirror, I head for the desk where a briefcase sits open. Inside is a single piece of paper and a pen. I take out the paper and read it, rereading the first line 10 more times before returning it, closing the briefcase and locking it, before leaving the bedroom. I check the top drawer of my desk to make sure it's still there. Everything is in its place. I knock on the office door of Mr. Hertzen, my boss. A low, hard-to-hear grunt comes from inside the room, which is his universal sign of acknowledgement. I open the door, put on my best smile as I sit down in the chair in front of the desk and wait for him to look up from his desk, where many papers are now spread. Such disorganization. They're not even alphabetized. The form titled Seabrook Incident, Serial Killer Still at Large, should go after Dr. Halbrin Profile. My index finger starts to tap the briefcase. I stop as Mr. Hertzen looks up from his papers. Howard, what do you want? This is not a good time for me. Mr. Hertzen's eyes have dark circles around them. I can see gray hair starting to form from out of his dark mustache and hair. Don't worry, this won't take long. As I bring my briefcase up, unlock it, and pull out the lone piece of paper. I just want to drop this off. I hand him the paper as I lock up the briefcase once more. He reads it as his teeth start to grind. He lets go of the paper, adding it to the already growing pile of mess on his desk. You're quitting now, of all times? You do know we have a crisis on our hands, he says to me, like I should care. That's irrelevant, I say as I look up from the chair. I have personal matters to attend to, and I don't see myself returning to work anytime soon. You know what? I have too much shit to worry about. Go ahead and leave. Mr. Hertzen returns his attention to the pile as I take my leave, shoving my resignation letter to the bottom. Step 1 completed as planned. Leaving the building, I get to my car parked just across the street. They're rather small and all black, not too flashy and lean looking. I get in and set my briefcase in the passenger seat before buckling up and driving off. I head towards the middle of the town to the supermarket Luton's and Craven's Grocery. Looking at my watch, I notice that it's usually busy before 9:54 a.m. Entering the store, I grab the handbasket and go through the rows of food till I reach aisle 10, the breakfast aisle. The box I was searching for comes into view, the Cranberries Berries, my favorite cereal when I was a boy. After retrieving the box and getting a half gallon of 1% milk, I head to checkout. Surprisingly, the lane is open for so many people. The cashier bags my things, his eyes darting around as if he's trying to find someone. I give him a 20 and let him keep the change as I leave the building. Dark clouds have started to form in the distance, but they haven't blocked out the sun yet, so everything's still alright. Getting into the car, I head home, step 2 done. I turn on my CD player. As the music plays, I tap my finger against the wheel, hitting each note perfectly with my thumb, and appreciate that this might be the last piece of music I ever listened to. My house comes into view. I turn the music off before pulling into the driveway and into the garage. I get out with my briefcase and plastic bag of milk and cereal, lock the car, and go inside. I head into my bedroom and set the briefcase on my desk and leave and go to the kitchen. I pull out the milk and box of cereal, set them on the counter next to the sink, and reach above the food into the cabinet and pull out a bowl. As the cereal pours, I am reminded of the feeling that I used to get when my mother would pour me a bowl, not knowing the troubles of adulthood, before being troubled with disorder that no one acknowledges. Blissful ignorance. I pour the milk in and get a spoon from the drawer to my left. I sit at the only chair at the dining room table. The rest of the chairs from the set have broken, but I only really needed one, so I didn't care. I eat my cereal, savoring each bite. I finish the food as I drink the excess milk. Step 3 finished. I return to the kitchen to clean up and to place the milk in the fridge. I stare at the empty fridge with a singular carton of milk sitting inside. I start to tap my index finger again, this time against my leg. After a while, I pull the milk back out of the fridge and dump it down the drain. As the milk circles the drain, I turn on the faucet, letting the water wash away the rest of the extra milk. I grab a rag from the drawer, wipe the sink now, drying it completely, and placing the rag on the side of the sink to dry. I then place the box of cereal in the garbage, wrapping it up and taking it out to the garbage can. I place the garbage can at the edge of the driveway, making it ready for tomorrow's pickup. Returning inside, I head to the bedroom. Sitting at my desk, my suit jacket laying neatly on my bed, my briefcase sitting in front of me, I go over my day a few dozen times. I'm sure that everything was done correctly. Every last detail has been perfect so far. I reassure myself before I continue with step 4 and pull open the top drawer of my desk. Inside is a Colt .45 revolver. It was a gift from my father before he died, and I hated it. I never used guns, always thought they were unnecessary, until recently. It came with exactly 6 shots, filling the cylinder, but hopefully that many won't be needed. I read up on how this type of gun works multiple times for this moment. I pull the gun out of the drawer with a paper lying underneath it. The top of the document says, "The Last Will and Testament of Howard Williams." I pull it out of the drawer as well, placing it on top of the briefcase. There's all my belongings going to different organizations and charities. It took me days to write. Had to rewrite it several times. Excuse me. Switching my attention to the gun, I inspect it. I check the hammer, the barrel, the bullets, the cylinder, everything. It's in perfect condition. I carefully pull the hammer back and place the barrel of the gun in my mouth, pointed up. I wait 10 seconds before I start to put pressure on the trigger. 3, 2, 1. A large bang echoes through the house. My finger twitches, almost setting the gun off. Placing the gun on the desk, I go to check out the noise. Of all times to get a visitor, it had to be now. I check the clock on the wall of the dining room as I pass by it. 10:38, still some time. I get to the front door and look through a small window beside it. A FedEx delivery man waits on the other side, holding a brown box. His name tag says Don. He sees me and waves as he shows me his teeth with a smile. They look crooked. I sigh as I open the door to greet him. "Hello, delivery for Howard Williams?" The FedEx man looks at his clipboard. "Yeah, that's me, but I didn't order anything." "Well, regardless, this is for you. Maybe you got a present." He winks at me while smiling his crooked teeth again. Anyway, can I get you to sign this, please? He hands me his clipboard. I take it and sign my name on the line, hoping the sentence before the looming storm above us doesn't start soon. We exchange items and shut the door and lock it 8 times before going to the dining room with the package. Sitting on the table, I pull out my keys and rip the tape. As I do this, I realize I didn't see a FedEx truck anywhere on the street when I opened the door. I open the package mindlessly as I think this, and when I pull the cardboard flaps away, I hear a click and look down just as a puff of white smoke shoots into my face. I wake up in my dining room. I see the package, open with tons of white powder scattered around it. I try to move but can't. Looking down, I see that I've been tied to my dining room chair. My mouth has been covered with what seems to be a rag from the sink. Disgusting. I've cleaned spots off the floor with this. As I begin to feel nauseated, a man walks in from the kitchen with a bag and sees I'm awake. Ah, well that wasn't quick. I just finished tying you up. He smiles his crooked teeth for a 3rd time. Don is still wearing his FedEx uniform, but is now wearing latex gloves. I try to say something in return, but it's muffled by the rag. Don raises an eyebrow before coming over and untying the rag. Now what was that? I said, what time is it? I reply. What? Don stutters. Don't you have a watch or something? Or even better, there's a clock behind my head. What does it say? It's 11:03. God damn it, I yell out, making Don step back in surprise. It's at that point that I can clearly hear the rain and banging on the windows of my house. Step 4 is ruined. You do realize what's going on here, Don stares at me. I stare back before I respond. All I know is that you ruined my plans and now I have to start over next week. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but you won't live to see next week, Don smirks. That was the idea. Don's smirk shrinks to a confused grimace. He sets his bag on the table, pulls out a scalpel and moves next to me. I don't think you're behaving properly to the situation. He brings a sharp blade close to my nose. I'm behaving exactly what I'm feeling, and that's angry. Do you know how long it took me to plan this? Don pushes the blade into my nose. Blood starts to leak down my face and into my mouth. The taste of iron fills my mouth. The pain was unexpected and brought me to a realization. Okay, please don't kill me. That's more like it. He moves it back to his bag, my fingers going at top speed, tapping the wooden chair. I stay silent for a bit as he ruffles through his bag before I finally speak again. Okay, here's the deal. I've been planning on killing myself for a while, and now you've messed everything up. Don turns to look at me. So is there any way you can leave and I can carry out my original plan next week? Don stares at me for a long time before responding. Why next week? I want to do it on a Tuesday. Don brings his hand up and strokes his chin in a jokingly manner. Well, my plans have me out of state then. I won't be here to make sure you die. So no, this was a very interesting conversation, but I've grown tired of it. He bends over and picks up the rag and ties it around my mouth again, patting my cheek before returning to his bag. My fingers going faster than I could ever felt. My fingers going faster than I have ever felt it move. The chair's wooden frame rattles the air with its noise. My leg then starts to stir up as it bounces in place. The chair makes a loud creaking noise as I fidget. Don glances back at me before turning back around. Seeing a way out, I lift my way on my feet and slam the chair against the ground. The chair breaks into pieces like its brothers had long before. Don spins around and sees me untying myself and rushes me with a saw. With my left hand still tied to the arm of the chair, I swing it around and land a hit to the side of Don's head. He tumbles back against the table as I run to my bedroom. Once inside, I find the gun still lying on my desk. I grab it and check the bullets, hammer, barrel, bullets, and cylinder before turning around and firing into the opening door. The door slams shut as I hear a loud thud on the other side. I wait for several minutes, never lowering the gun. I finally move to the door and open to see a now mostly toothless Don laying on the floor. The sight almost makes me puke, but I'm able to hold it in. I get back inside my room, put my suit back on, and put the gun inside my briefcase and leave my house. Placing the briefcase in my car, I go back to the can of gasoline in my garage and bring it inside. Blood stains never come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, I would like to introduce Jess Rockman and she'll be reading a piece of fiction for us today.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming today. Ooh, hello. Okay. I'm going to be reading a piece of flash fiction I wrote in my workshop last semester. and I really just wanted to write something that got me to use 50s slang. So this is Motor Mouth. After the last bell, I stood next to the chain link fence with Scotty and listened to the jocks dither like a bunch of dollies around Margie Dixon's brand new hot rod. It was enough to get the whole school talking. The car was something from a cartoon: Pepto-Bismol pink exterior, spit-shined chrome trim, and creamy white vinyl seats. I shook my head and stomped my cigarette beneath the heel of my boot. Just listen to those dumb bulls. They're worse than a couple old grannies at the sewing circle. Scotty smiled around his smoke. Some of his ash blew onto my sweater. It is a nice car. I see you looking at it like you've got hearts in your eyes. I stuck my tongue out at him. It's not even a Bel Air. Unless Elvis is driving straight into East High, there will never be a goddamn Chevy Bel Air in this parking lot. That right there is a 1957 Chevy 210. Chrome headlights, 2 doors, 14-inch wheels, sweet as punch mechanics. Scotty listened to my ranting, long-suffering. But it's pink, Liz. I thought you wanted candy apple red. I ignored him and lowered my voice. I also know for a fact that her daddy didn't buy it for her like everyone is saying. Word from the bird is that Mr. Parr sent it to her. Scotty raised his eyebrows, his cigarette bobbing along. From Parr's cars? Cross my heart. Her parents are divorced. Papa flew the coop last fall. Mama Dixon started dating Mr. Parr last month. He must have done something pretty bad to buy Margie a goddamn hot rod, I said. Through the diamond pattern of the fence, I saw Margie walk across the baseball field to the parking lot. Her brown skirt flapped in the cold wind, and her limp bangs fluttered across her acne-pocked forehead. She glanced up at us when she got back to her car, books clutched to her chest. I wish my mama would date Parr, I whispered. I would never admit it to Scotty, but I would have taken someone off the payroll for a rocket like that. I couldn't help it. I was from Jackrabbit blood. We lived and breathed for nice new cars that we couldn't afford. I'm going to go make sure those morons leave her alone. I handed Scotty my books. I walked around the car, marveling how bright the paint was up close. The jocks gathered around seemed to glow a faint peach color. Hey, Margie, how about we play a little backseat bingo in your new ride? One of the boys leaned against Margie's front door, giving her moose eyes. I grabbed him by his collar. I was no match for a 200-pound jock, but my mean mouth usually did the trick. Get bent, leave the gal alone. I'm just having some fun. I think you should get lost, asshole. The boys laughed, but gradually dispersed, leaving Margie and me standing next to the 210. I wanted to lay my body over the sleek cat-like surface and listen to her purr, wanted to hear the wind whistle across the hot knife tail fins as they cut through the air like butter down the highway. I traced my fingernail around the chrome seat above the grill. Sorry about them. They're just a bunch of gorillas. You okay? Margie looked up at me with her small, beady eyes, her mouth in a grim line. With enough acid to melt those nice chrome rims right into the gravel, she said, "Drop dead, Liz, and get your hophead hands off my car." My face went hot, and I pulled my hand back like the pink paint lashed out and bit me. Margie stood tall, little nose upturned, her keys dangling from her index finger. Entire body shaking with adrenaline, I leaned over with my elbows on the trunk of the car, trying through my anger to look casual. The exterior was so smooth against my jacket, it was like warm silk. I looked her in the eye and asked, voice low and hot, "What are you going to do when he knocks you up, sweetheart?" Margie flinched like I'd smacked her, her face going red, mouth open in a neat O of surprise. Before she could say anything, I pulled away from the car and walked back to the fence where Scotty was laughing. "Holy shit, you really told her what's what," he said, clapping me on the back. "Shut the fuck up, Scotty," I snapped, snatching my books from his hands. "Let's go." I refused to look back at Margie and her pretty car. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. The next reader I'd like to introduce is actually the winner of our Don't Starve for Your Art contest. He is the poetry, he won the poetry part of it, I'm sorry. Please let me introduce John Heimer.
Thank you, Todd. I'd also like to thank the editors and those who decided chose my poem to win. So thank you. So I'll start with that poem that won. I'll move this a little bit. All right. So it's called Crazy Horse. In the beginning of it, though, I have his name written in the Native American language, but I can't pronounce it, so I don't want to try and say it wrong. So in the beginning, I have an epigram. So because he may have surrendered, but he was never defeated in battle, because although he was killed, even the army admitted he was never captured, because he was so free that he didn't know what a jail looked like. Ian Fraser. I am Crazy Horse. My reservation was a trailer court. The guards were meth and crack. Eventually, you just want to stay. There were no cops, just an uncle with 2 fists who made it a point not to leave bruises. After the first hit, you became numb, and the rest passes in relative peace. Instead of being shot, I was thrown into incoming traffic by different hands than my uncle's, but would still beat me raw. Sometimes tears would be on them, and they would almost be soft. Instead of watching my people be killed, I watched my people try to kill me. Little by little, they attempted it. One day at a time, they would take my life, slowly and with great focus, not to take more than a day's worth. But between the beatings, the rapes, and the hole beneath the trailer, you could smell the food you could smell the food cooking just above your head. The walls too smooth to leave, and with the air too stale to breathe. If I had made a single noise, I would receive more, and years went by in silence until I almost forgot how to speak. But between all that, I learned something. The beatings taught me control. The rapes taught me strength. The hole taught me endurance. All of it taught me patience. When I left the hole, I was told I would never have to return. The doctors said I had never left. They said who I was had died back in that hole, and that hope had died in that hole. But I must not have been listening, because I didn't agree. When they said I couldn't talk, I became loud, because the hole was gone, and my happiness now directly tied to the temperature and dew point of my voice. I was free in the hole. I would talk as loud as I wanted in the hole. I would scream, I would shout, but only I could hear the voice in my head that I used. So when I learned that the voice in my head had a voice outside, I made sure that everyone could hear. I made sure that everyone knew I was free, and that the doctors and the faithless became silent in their attempts to silence me. I am Crazy Horse. Every time someone said I couldn't, I did. And as long as I don't quit and I don't give up, I will always be free. I will never be captured, and I will never be defeated. And then, so that poem was about paralleling my early childhood before I was adopted with one of my favorite childhood heroes, Crazy Horse. I always identified with him. So this next poem is, I can flip to the page here. It's called The World's Greatest Pencil. If you know what Ticonderogas are, you probably get the title. Their slogan is that they're the world's greatest pencil. Ticonderoga, take me away. Let's forget myself and the pages we write. I don't recall if the lines are red or blue on this page. Are we a half inch from the margin, or are we reckless and only a 1/4? Ticonderoga, take me away. And then my last poem is it's BA 218, the Walt Whitman Room. It's about the English club room / English room in general for whoever. And it's a very unique room. It has busts and portraits of professors, or writers, excuse me. The Walt Whitman Room, where the dead lie and the young huddle together, hoping to hear the fallen whisper. The Walt Whitman Room, with its busts of poets and writers whose names we no longer know, and portraits that watch us, that sneer and mock with their relentless gaze. Walt, Virginia Woolf, and Evelyn Wu, too, all waiting for us to misalign, misspell, comma splice. They want us to fail. Because who could remember them except for those who have perished here? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next reader I'd like to introduce is the winner of our Don't Starve for Your Art contest, our fiction entry. Please give Kelsey Jenin a welcome.
I'm Kelsey, and I'll be reading a piece of flash fiction called The Man in the Purple Robe. He sat on the Davenport, wrapped in a purple bathrobe and flipping through Saturday evening channels while he stroked the fur-covered bones of an old cat sleeping between his knees. At his feet was another cat licking his toes through the hole in his sock. It was the one that had wandered into his yard the day before last. Throughout the house, which sat on cinder blocks, were the meows and hisses of felines that he no longer was accustomed to answering. The animals were scattered across the living room floor, on top of furniture and beneath it. A couple were sitting on the kitchen counter, and one large, exceptionally hairy cat, Snowball, sat on the windowsill. The old man kept flipping through channels, the light of the commercials reflected on his thick-rimmed glasses as his lips pursed in disgust. Nothing was on. Some of the cats wore bonnets, a couple of them wore little bow ties, some of the cats lay in piles on the floor, some of them lying a little too still. There weren't many fat ones. Most were scrawny with tangled fur and red around their eyes. A hole was cut out in the middle of the hallway floor where animals would jump in and out as they pleased, but feces was still smeared into the carpet and clumped along the woodwork, and the ceiling fan overhead had thick strips of fur lining the edges of the blades. The Meals on Wheels truck squealed into the yard. He could hear it driving up for the last mile and a half, and tossed the sleeping cat onto the cushion beside him. As he rose to his feet, he popped a cigarette in his mouth and waddled toward the door with the stiffness of a cadaver. The boy on the outside had time to knock once before the old man swung the door open. As he opened the door, the smell of urine and stale feces swept over the young boy, and a wave of floating hair swam into the breeze. The old man swiped the box from him, the white cigarette dangling from his chapped lips, and slammed the door. He tossed the box onto the ledge next to Snowball with a flick of his wrist and limped toward the other side of the house, cats weaving in and out of his stride, where he opened up the back door and stepped onto his homemade patio of cinder blocks. He shut the door, lit his cigarette with a match, and hid both his hands in his pockets, holding his robe tightly around his body. His eyes squinted as he stared west, where the sun had just dipped below the land and smoke was rising from the chimney of the house a mile down the road. Somewhere, a dog barked, but he didn't know from where. He flicked the cigarette into the dirt underneath the house, yellow eyes watching him from every angle, and stepped back inside, where it wasn't much warmer. After he closed the door, he saw two large cats and a bony one, all gathered around something in the living room. Slowly, he eased toward them, but when he saw the kitten lying on the ground and heard the gnawing and smacking of the hungry cats, he ran to kick them away. He got one in the gut, launching it into the wall. Groaning as he bent, he leaned down and scooped up the kitten with both hands, cradling her in his arms. In the kitchen, he set her on the counter and opened the cupboard, dodging the dishes and papers that spilled out, and reached for a rag that he put underneath her. From the fridge, plagued by green mold growing on cans and shelves and old meat, he retrieved a bottle with milk and dipped it into her mouth, but a chunk of her side was already eaten away, and she wasn't moving. "Come on, girl," he whispered, elbowing a fat cat off the edge of the counter that was trying to get a peek. "Come on." And as the sun headed further west and darkness overtook the house, 3 little candles held onto a glow that let him keep working, and as he dropped milk into the protruding tongue of the kitten, the crying, mocking conversation of 100 animals swirled throughout the walls of the house, on top of it and underneath it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Our last reader is Professor Amy Berry. She'll be reading a couple of pieces of her poetry. So yeah, please come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and in the company of such excellent writers. I have two poems for you. The first one was written about 6 months after I moved here from Virginia Beach. Surfer Girl in the Minnesota Tundra. December used to mean walking down the beach with my board under my arm. Its skegs powdered with white sand, glinting in the warm sun, open in the moment, smiling, and content. Today is Christmas Eve. Wind chill, minus 30 degrees. 14 inches of snow frozen to the ground. I'm huddled in bed under blankets and comforters, heavy boots standing in the hall. Beneath down coats, hoods, hats, balaclavas, and the rest. Small protection against permafrost regrets. My second poem is in memory of Sandy Hook School. She closed her classroom door, covered the windows, and gathered the children in the back of the room where the little ones knew they would be safe. One by one, she took their faces in her hands, whispering, "It's going to be okay." Determined that gunshots would not be the last thing her students heard in this world, in defiance of madness and death, and true to herself, their teacher opened her book and she read to them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Well, I guess that brings us an end to our reading today. I would like to thank everyone for showing up. I once again like to thank all my editors for her help, especially big thanks to our advisor, Professor Mary Ann Zarzana. Without her, I'd probably be not doing this right now. We have cake and refreshments in the back. Please help yourself, talk to the readers. Jessica Ann Bruss has actually brought in most of her original artwork published in the book, so take a look at it. Otherwise, thank you all for showing up. Have a great day.